In the year 2142, a long-dormant space probe suddenly activates as it nears the wreckage of the Nostromo, the ship that vanished under mysterious circumstances in the original Alien movie. The probe, following its program directives, opens a hatch and retrieves an unidentified, organic-looking object from the debris before speeding away. It carries the object to a remote space station, where a team of scientists eagerly begins to dissect it. Half of the object is sent to another facility for further study, while the remaining half reveals a horrific surprise. An alien creature, the infamous Xenomorph, lurks inside. 6 months later, on a remote mining colony controlled by the Weyland-Yutani Corporation, a worker named Rain finds herself entangled in the corporation's ruthless grip. She meets with an employee from Weyland-Yutani to discuss her status, certain that she's met her work quota and is due to be released from her contract. However, the clerk coldly informs her that due to a worker shortage, she's being reassigned to the mines. Her contract has been extended for another 5 years, dashing her hopes of freedom. At that moment, Rain notices a commotion nearby. Her adopted brother, Andy, is being assaulted by a group of thugs. She races to his side, only to discover Andy is bleeding. He's an android. Using a special chip, Rain resets his systems, calming him down. Soon after, Rain receives a message from her ex-boyfriend Tyler, urging her to visit him aboard his ship, the Corbelan. She and Andy make their way to the ship, where Tyler and his family reveal a daring plan. They've discovered a derelict spaceship drifting in orbit around the colony. The ship contains multiple hypersleep chambers, and if they can salvage it, they could finally escape the harsh life of the colony. Tyler wants Rain to join the mission, knowing that Andy can interface with the ship's systems and unlock any barriers they might encounter. Eager for a way out, Rain agrees, and the Corbelan takes off. During the flight, Tyler's cousin Bjorn shows off a fiery trick with his lighter, offering some levity as the ship shudders through a storm. Once they ascend above the clouds, the turbulence ceases, and they approach the mysterious derelict. To their surprise, it isn't just a ship, it's an entire station, and it's on a slow descent toward the planet's rings. They calculate they have 36 hours before it crashes, but Tyler reassures them that they'll be in and out in under 30 minutes. As the crew prepares to board the station, Rain pulls Andy aside to ask if he's sure about continuing. Andy's response is simple. His only directive, programmed by Rain's father, is to make Rain happy. With the ship docked, Tyler, Bjorn, and Andy enter the station, using a temp scanner to navigate. Andy inserts his finger into the first lock, allowing the trio to squeeze through a narrow passage. The station's artificial gravity flickers on and off at random intervals, making movement tricky. They emerge into a larger chamber, where they find the hypersleep pods they came for. As they begin inspecting the pods, the gravity fluctuates again, sending Bjorn tumbling. Andy quickly accesses the station's computer and stabilizes the system, bringing gravity back under control. Unfortunately, the pods don't have enough fuel to reach the nearest habitable planet. Undeterred, Tyler ejects the pods for the Corbelan to retrieve, while he and Bjorn search for more fuel. Back on the ship, Navarro, Bjorn's sister, pilots the Corbelan and secures the pods. Rain tends to Tyler's sister, Kay, who is experiencing severe nausea. In a moment of vulnerability, Kay confides in Rain that she's pregnant and begs her to keep the secret. Meanwhile, on the station, Tyler, Bjorn, and Andy stumble upon a chilling discovery. A recording reveals that the station, named Renaissance, belongs to the Weyland-Yutani Corporation. The station is divided into 2 sections, Romulus and Remus, referencing the mythological twins. Tensions rise as Bjorn grows increasingly hostile toward Andy, his disdain for android surfacing. He reveals to Rain that they cannot bring Andy with them to their destination, as the planet they plan to escape to doesn't allow androids. Tyler is forced to agree, but Andy, ever loyal, simply responds that whatever is best for Rain is best for him. The trio presses on and reaches a deserted but operational lab. While exploring, Bjorn nearly falls into a chemical spill, but Andy saves him at the last moment. They also discover a damaged android, its body partially destroyed by the same spill. Continuing their search, they reach a cryo chamber, but the door only opens halfway, leaving just enough space for them to crawl inside. The room is flooded, and when Tyler and Bjorn attempt to retrieve fuel from the compartment, Bjorn accidentally freezes his fingers. Alarms suddenly blare as the door seals shut behind them. Andy tries to override the lock, but it requires higher clearance than he possesses. As the situation grows more dire, the computer in the adjacent room activates, revealing a deadly secret. The cryo chamber contains frozen facehuggers, the parasitic creatures that birth xenomorphs. As they begin to thaw and stir, Navarro and Rain are forced to board the station to rescue their companions. Rain finds the damaged android and attempts to transfer its credentials to Andy, but the android springs to life and attacks her. Navarro swiftly disables it, and the girls rush to the lab, passing the module through the narrow gap in the door. Tyler installs the module in Andy, causing him to freeze momentarily as he reboots. Meanwhile, the facehuggers have fully awakened. One leaps onto Bjorn, but he manages to wrestle it off and throw it against the door. Another facehugger emerges from the water and attacks Tyler. As it attempts to implant its embryo, Bjorn uses a stun rod to knock it away, sending an unconscious Tyler into the water. Bjorn fights off another facehugger as Rain frantically tries to force the door open, but Navarro hesitates, fearing the creatures will escape. The facehuggers work together to pry open the door, forcing the group to retreat into another room. One facehugger manages to slip through, latching onto Navarro's face. The group rushes to help, but it's too late. The creature's tail tightens around her neck. Andy, now fully functional and speaking with new confidence, calmly explains that the facehugger is sharing oxygen with Navarro, keeping her alive. Rain discovers the new module is malfunctioning and tries to remove it, but Andy stops her, claiming he's been updated. He admits he doesn't know how to safely remove the facehugger from Navarro and suggests a risky alternative, activating the destroyed android in the lab. Once connected to the computer, the android reboots and introduces itself as Science Officer Rook. Rook delivers grim news. It's too late to save Navarro because the facehugger is implanting an alien inside her. Rook reveals the horrifying truth about their location. The station they're on is actually the ship that discovered the wreck of the Nostromo, the infamous vessel destroyed by a xenomorph. The alien killed the entire crew, and the dead xenomorph now hangs tangled in cables in a hole. It's acidic blood responsible for the station's extensive damage. Rook had sealed off the station after the xenomorph died, but it was too late. Faced with Navarro's impending doom, Rain proposes a daring plan, using cryonic liquid to freeze the facehugger. Tyler fires the liquid at the alien, and as its grip loosens, they successfully remove it from Navarro's face. However, when Tyler attempts to kill the creature, the facehugger slips away through a hole in the floor. Everyone is relieved that Navarro seems okay, but Rook warns there's still a 60% chance she's carrying an alien. Andy, fearing the risk, argues they shouldn't take Navarro back to the ship, prompting Bjorn to strike Andy with a rod, sending him flying. Rain stays behind to help Andy, while Bjorn seizes the moment to escape with Navarro. Suddenly, Andy hears something and races down the corridor, only to find Bjorn sealing the doors behind him. Desperate to keep the door open, Andy grabs onto it, but Bjorn quickly locks the next one, trapping Andy, Rain, and Tyler inside the station. Meanwhile, Navarro detaches their ship, the Corbelan, from the station. Before she can get far, she begins feeling sick. Using a special light to scan her body, she realizes with horror that an alien is growing inside her, just as Rook predicted. Navarro's body convulses as a chestburster violently erupts from her, killing her instantly. Now without a pilot, the Corbelan spirals out of control, crashing back into the station and triggering a massive explosion by hitting a fuel tank. The blast knocks both Kay and Bjorn unconscious as the ship drifts into the station's hangar bay, shattering a window and creating a vacuum. Fortunately, the doors close just in time, but the station's systems are destabilized, leaving them with only 47 minutes before it crashes into the planet's rings. Rain and Tyler, racing against time, search for a way to reach their ship. As they prepare to open a door, they're horrified to find it leads to a room filled with facehuggers. Meanwhile, Rook checks the computer, ensuring that Z01 compound is still intact. As Rook converses with Andy, Andy realizes the new module overrode his original directive. Instead of helping Rain and Tyler, his primary mission now is to complete the station's task for Weyland-Yutani. However, Andy rejoins Rain and Tyler and shares a critical piece of information from Rook. The facehuggers are blind and track their prey through body heat. By raising the room's temperature to match their own, they can become invisible to the creatures. Andy adjusts the thermostat, and the trio cautiously crosses the room, careful not to react to the dead bodies scattered around. Meanwhile, Kay awakens aboard the Corbelan and begins searching for her friends. In the corridor, she finds the discarded skin of the chestburster and the cocoon it has formed. Just then, Bjorn arrives and forces Kay to step back before thrusting his rod into the cocoon to electrocute the alien inside. However, the creature's acidic blood melts the rod, and the xenomorph retaliates, slashing Bjorn's face with its tail. Acid drips from the wound, eating through Bjorn's skin until he succumbs to a painful death. As the newly hatched xenomorph emerges, Kay desperately tries to escape but finds herself trapped. Kay contacts Tyler, who, still in the room with the facehuggers, whispers instructions to her. She finds a key and manages to open the door just as the alien approaches, allowing her to flee. Focused on the alien, Kay falls from the Corbelan's hatch and lands hard in the station's hangar. The loud noise alerts the facehuggers, which start jumping toward the trio. Tyler throws a flare to distract the creatures, but the trick buys them only a few moments. Soon, the aliens are on their tail again. As they race toward the door, Andy begins closing it, forcing Tyler and Rain to sprint through at the last second. When Rain angrily confronts Andy, he coldly responds that he'd calculated they'd make it in time. With only 30 minutes left before impact, the station's hangar sprinklers activate, waking Kay. Hearing the approaching xenomorph, She hides as it passes directly above her. Once it's gone, she attempts to escape, but triggers an alarm. The trio reaches the door, but Andy refuses to open it, knowing the xenomorph is lying in wait. Rain pleads with Andy, telling him that Kay is pregnant, but Andy remains unmoved. The xenomorph eventually grows impatient and drags Kay away, leading Rain to slap Andy in frustration. When pressed, Andy reveals his primary directive is to prioritize the company's interests. Andy leads Rain and Tyler to an elevator, explaining that they need to complete the station's mission in order for Rook to open the hangar doors and let them leave. In the lab, they discover a capsule containing the mysterious Z01 compound. Rook appears on a screen and explains that humans were never meant to explore the universe due to their physical limitations. Weyland-Yutani created the station to study the aliens and use their fluids to enhance humans. The Z01 compound, a black liquid from Prometheus, can heal injuries almost instantly, as they witness in a video of a rat being crushed and miraculously recovering after an injection. However, Andy grabs the compound samples, ready to bring them back to the colony, but Rain stops him after spotting the xenomorph on the security feed. Armed with pulse rifles, the trio cautiously leaves the lab, unaware that the rat in the video has mutated into a deadly monster. With only 20 minutes remaining, they make their way through the station and come across walls covered in xenomorph resin, signaling that more aliens are nearby. Andy turns on the corridor lights, revealing a horrifying sight, a full alien hive. As they attempt to retreat, Tyler hears Kay's voice and rushes into the hive, followed closely by Rain. Inside, they discover countless bodies cocooned in alien goo, including Kay's. Rain and Tyler rush through the dimly lit hive, dragging the unconscious Kay behind them. Her pulse is faint, and they're losing hope. Andy points out an alarming detail. Kay hasn't been implanted yet. There's no dead facehugger at her feet. He offers a compound injection, something experimental, but Rain halts him, wary of its unknown effects. She insists Kay will survive if they get her to a cryochamber. Before they can make a decision, a screech echoes through the hive. A xenomorph is approaching fast. Panic sets in, and they flee into another room. Their relief is short-lived when another xenomorph lunges at Rain, tail striking like a spear. Tyler throws himself in the way, taking the blow to his side. The creature, sensing an opportunity, uses Tyler's limp body as a weapon, slamming him into Andy. The impact knocks Andy out cold. Tyler is helpless as the xenomorph drags him deeper into the hive, where more of the creatures swarm and tear him apart. Rain and Kay barely make it to the elevator and escape, but Rain is haunted by the image of her brother being ripped to pieces. At the hangar bay, Rain drops Kay and the precious samples, urging her to return to the colony on the Corbelan. But as Rain leaves, Kay grows fearful, particularly for the baby she's carrying. Against Rain's earlier advice, she injects herself with the compound Andy had offered. Rain reaches the hive and removes Andy's module, resetting him just in time. He reboots, back to his old self, but the xenomorphs are closing in. They sprint towards the hangar, but Rook, the station's AI, refuses to open the doors. It's too dangerous. The compound they carry is invaluable. Rain, filled with fury, blasts the screen in frustration, only for Rook to reappear on the Corbelan system, asking Kay to grant him access to the ship. Rain, desperate, disables the station's gravity, sending the xenomorphs floating. With Andy anchoring her down, Rain opens fire. The alien blood, now freed from gravity, floats aimlessly, no longer a threat to the hull. She mercilessly eliminates each creature. Navigating the now weightless corridors proves tricky. Rain nearly floats into a pool of acid, but quickly fires her rifle, using the recoil to change direction. Eventually, they reach the elevator shaft, but the elevator itself is useless without gravity. Andy leaps ahead to climb, but Rain is suddenly seized by a xenomorph grabbing her leg. She fires at its arm, breaking free and floating upwards. In the chaos, neither of them notices the acid slowly eating through the elevator doors. As Andy clings to the stairs, Rain attempts to retrieve her drifting rifle. But before she can get a grip, gravity returns with a sudden purge. Rain plummets, and the elevator begins its descent. Andy catches her mid-fall, but a xenomorph latches onto her with its tail. Desperately clinging to the stairs, Rain feels the full force of the vacuum created by the acid breach. As the corridor's air rushes out, it slows the advancing xenomorphs. Andy releases the elevator, allowing it to crash down and obliterate the creatures below. The resulting impact seals the breach, stopping the vacuum and saving them both. Yet, danger persists. Another xenomorph remains in the shaft, alongside a facehugger. Andy, armed with Rain's rifle, opens fire, killing both in seconds. But the station's countdown is complete. The entire structure begins sliding into the rings surrounding the planet. Rain and Andy make a mad dash for the ship, finding Kay unconscious in the hangar. Rain immediately activates the Corbelan's autopilot, narrowly escaping as the station collapses into the rings, taking Rook down with it. As Rain prepares cryopods for herself and Kay, a critical alert flashes across the screen. Kay is screaming inside her pod. Horrified, Rain opens it to find Kay giving birth to a strange xenomorph-like cocoon, accelerated by the compound. Without hesitation, Rain cuts the umbilical cord, but acid drips from the cocoon, forcing her to drop it. The cocoon bursts open, revealing a hideous baby alien. The acid burns through the floor, sending the cocoon crashing into the cargo bay. The ship detects the breach, shifting the controls from autopilot to manual. Grabbing a freezing ray, Rain races to the cargo bay, only to find the cocoon empty. As she follows the monstrous footprints, Andy wakes up and checks on Kay, who is now secreting a mucus-like substance instead of milk. Her alien child, now fully grown, appears and savagely attacks Andy before climbing on top of its mother to feed, killing her in the process. Rain arrives just in time to confront the creature. She fires her freezing ray, but the weapon malfunctions, sending out a plume of frosty smoke. It buys her a moment to retreat, but she can't move Andy's heavy frame. The creature comes after her, forcing her to lock herself in another room. The temperature continues to drop, and Rain quickly dons a space suit. As the creature starts breaking down the door, she hurries to the cargo bay, disengaging the manual locks, planning to eject the entire bay and the creature with it. 2 locks down, but before she can release the remaining 2, the creature strikes her, knocking her to the ground. Desperate, Rain tips over the cocoon, allowing the acid to eat through the floor once again. Her suit is tethered to the ship, preventing her from floating away as she falls. But as she climbs back, the creature grabs her by the head, cracking her helmet. With its tail wrapped tightly around the ship's structure, it tries to pull her in. Rain, in one final act of defiance, yanks on her rope and releases the last lock. The entire cargo bay is ejected, sending the creature tumbling into the planet's rings. The ship, now in freefall, triggers the autopilot, pulling them away from danger. With a sigh of relief, Rain manages to haul herself back into the main cabin. Moments later, she places Andy's damaged body into a cryopod, removing his module and vowing to repair him. Exhausted, she steps into her own pod, hoping they'll survive long enough to find a new planet. The terror never stops in alien Romulus, as we witness Rain's fierce battle for survival against monstrous creatures in the dark void of space. Will she ever find peace, or is the nightmare just beginning? If you enjoyed this wild sci-fi horror experience, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and click the bell icon so you never miss our next movie recap.